This video is an urgent warning to people who are in Gen Z and millennials. You don't want to end up in a scenario like this, right? And this is the reality of where the West is heading financially and economically in terms of people's career, in terms of people's finances, because many people are always kind of thinking things are going to work out at some point. At some point, they'll get the high paying job. The tax will get lowered. The government will, deal with unaffordable housing. But the truth is it's not going to happen. Or it could happen if there was some kind of uprising, but I wouldn't bet my money on it, right? But what the direction the West is heading is similar to Japan economically in terms of low birth rates, less people buying housing, lots of depression, a lot of isolated people and things like this. And this guy is an example of this in a sense, right? He's in a poor financial situation, even though he's 50 years old, right? He's married, he's got some kids, he's got some good work experience, not much hope of promotions, quite large mortgage that he has to pay off. And these are the realities that many people in the West are going to face. So you have to be careful about what obligations you take on. Is getting married a smart financial decision? Is having kids? Is buying a house? Even though these are difficult, normal things that we should find acceptable in this society for us all to attain. This system is deliberately making it increasingly unaffordable or quite risky or kind of challenging to do. This guy is 50 years old. He's in Japan, has a professional corporate job, and he's been working his whole life and still not in a great financial position. So let's listen to what he has to say.
28 years more that I have to pay. I have to keep payment of my home loan, my home mortgage. I have 28 years from now on. So my home loan will be finished when I will be eligible. Meaning, I will have to work until I finish my home loan.
So this guy's 50 years old. His mortgage is 28 years left to pay off the mortgage, right? So if he's 50, he's saying he has to work until he pays off the mortgage effectively. So 50 plus 28 until he's 78 years old, he's going to have to work to pay off the mortgage. Now, a lot of people out there, they're putting off buying a property because property prices are quite high, which is understandably so, right? But I would just recommend people think about what is affordable for them to buy a house. And I know a lot of these conversations are quite difficult because it might require significant downsizing of your life or your dreams, right, based on where you currently are and where the economy is heading. So you might want to buy a house. You might think maybe buying an apartment is more effective and it's more low cost, right? And I would encourage everyone out there who's watching this to really think carefully. You don't want to take on a massive mortgage, then maybe the property prices do drop and then you want to sell it and you're selling it at a loss. Really live way well within your means, right? And what you want to do is focus on your goals, right? And many people's goals, especially now, is to be free of this sick system you have in the West with high debt, people being kind of broke, depressed, and unhealthy in a sense in the West with all this culture that is going on and the economy. So if your goal is to be free, you don't really necessarily want a big house. So I question to what extent he has a big house. If you've got a massive mortgage, why do you have that? Do you really need a 5-bedroom house if you only have a wife and 2 kids? I know people who do that. I've worked at some of these major banks. You can see here Goldman's, Morgan Stanley, and so on. And some people who are working at these companies, you'd be surprised. They might be making a lot of money, but they're spending a lot of money. They're buying big houses. They have big mortgages. They have, a wife and 2 kids, but then they get a 5-bedroom house. It doesn't kind of make sense. Everything's for social status. They buy expensive clothes that are, even for them, slightly out their budget. So you need to kind of think carefully about your financial decisions here. And, if your goal is freedom and not getting a big house, maybe getting a small apartment as for you and maybe your wife or whatever, if you're not having kids, might make more sense and it's a smarter financial decision.
I'm just 80 years old. He's just 80 years old, third grade of elementary school in Japan. And my youngest daughter, she is just 4 years old. She hasn't started her school life in elementary school yet. He is still in the nursing school. And she has just started her new school life in nursing school. So
what we've got here is another difficult this consideration you have to have for yourself. Do you want to have kids? How expensive is it really to have kids? Can you really afford them? Are you on a trajectory where your income is going to increase and be stable enough for you to afford kids, right? And also, don't have kids too late. And I know these are difficult conversations because many people are kind of deluding themselves, like, oh, maybe the economy will improve, maybe the school system will get better and they won't have this radical gender ideology that they're selling them. Maybe I won't have to, pay extra to tutor my kids because the schools will improve. Maybe I don't have to do homeschooling because, again, the schools will improve and things like that. But the truth is, the system's not got many signs of improving. You're going to have to, if you're going to have kids, it's probably going to be relatively high cost. Can you afford them? Their clothing, their travel to the school, all these other expenses that you might not think about initially, apart from, basically having a kids and maybe dealing with the pregnancy and the costs associated there. And then you've got many people who putting off buying a house because buying a house is increasingly unaffordable in the West. Then they put off having kids. And in this case, he has many young kids, even though he's an older man. He's in his 50s and he has two kids who are, pre-teen years. One kid who's 4, one who's 8. Now, I'd encourage everyone there, if you want to have kids, try not to have your kids too late, of course. But I understand, the delay of getting on the property ladder and buying a house can put you in a difficult situation in terms of having kids. And also there is a risk. If you're getting married, there's a high risk of divorce and high risk of financial ruin if you are a man. Because, around, I don't have the statistics, but I think in America, at least, the divorce rate is close to 50%. But then the less and less people are getting married now because they do see the risk of divorce and a financial ruin through the divorce. And then also, if you're having kids and you have to pay child support, as I say, if you want to pay for homeschooling, there's all sorts of expenses that can come out with having kids. And before you end up trapped in a situation where you do have kids that you can't afford, really think it through carefully now, given your current financial situation, so you don't end up in this situation.
She is 81 years old. This is another biggest sponsor. So I have one big brother. And actually, me and my brother decided to put my mother into care center, care residence in Japan. So she is now living in care center, care home, care residence. I don't know how to say it properly.
So he's in a situation, let me just move him.
Putting our mother into the care center.
So I just moved his hand there. So what we have here is someone who he's saying that he's got old elderly parents, right? And he's having to pay for their living costs and having to pay to put them in a old people's home, essentially, right? An elderly care home. And his mother is 81, as you can see on the whiteboard, and he has his in-laws, his mother-in-law is 68, his father-in-law is 72. So he has this burden, and this is the burden many people who is Gen Z and Millennial need to consider. Can you afford to look out for your parents and maybe supplement their income because their pension might not be enough? Can you pay for them and pay for your wife or your husband's living costs? Maybe you have to contribute to that partly, and your kids. So you've got 3 generations who are meant to kind of exist on one income, one generation's income. The Millennials and Gen Z might have to pay for their kids, of course, their own generation and the older generation. And this is the difficult scenario that people are in. That's why I recommend you really carefully think through your financial obligations so you don't end up 50 years old like this guy, super stressed. And if you need to downsize your financial dreams right now, until maybe things do improve significantly for you and you've got a significant amount of savings and investments, you might need to consider that, right? You might need to consider, okay, well, maybe I won't buy a house right now, or buy a 1-bedroom apartment and live there and then save and see how things go and how things trend, rather than just think. I know many people who are single and they'll buy a big house because they think, oh, I want a big house for the social status. Maybe people who've been living with their parents for several years and then they're in their 30s. They buy a big house. They think one day they'll get married and have kids, but they don't really have that on the cards. There's no trajectory there. There's no signs that things are heading in that direction. And then, they're kind of left in a scenario where they've got a big house, they've got high tax, government tax, council tax, or property tax, depending on which country you're in, to pay for that. They've got high electricity and heating bills and utility bills. For a house that they don't need, they could probably live in a 1-bedroom apartment. But like I say, people want to buy things for their social status until it's too late and they're 50 years old and they can't really afford to pay for their parents and their kids and other living costs. So here now he's going to talk through the career risk that can occur. So I'd recommend everyone pay attention to this too.
Back to my career. And I have been working at current company for 10 years now. And I know that, I understand that I don't have any hope to be promoted anymore. because of my position and because of my career and because of the condition and environment, everything. I know a lot because I have been working 10 years and I don't see any future. And if people in my age working at a similar company as I'm working now, may get to be promoted to become the director or like a chairman or very important positions. But I'm not working at the top important position, and I'm not going to be promoted at there. Actually, I don't want to become the directors or the top leaders of the company. So this is not my hope.
So here we've got a situation that many people face in their middle age, like in their 40s or older, 40, 45, 50. They get a corporate job and it's not a job with much progression. They're not considered as someone who's worthy of getting a promotion. So they end up kind of in a dead-end middle-aged job in the finance industry or any other corporate office job, right? They've got 10 years of experience in their current job. Maybe they've been doing that 40 to 50. There's no chance of promotion. There's no point of kind of skill stacking because they're kind of seen as too old. They've given kind of work just to get on with, just for the sake of it. There's a lack of promotions. There's too much competition from junior employees, so that they'll probably be preferred because those junior employees will actually do more work for less money compared to someone who's older and does have these financial obligations. And also you can see here, I think he said he did a law degree. You can see in the corner of his whiteboard here. So you know, he's done a law degree and it's kind of hasn't worked out for him financially. And many people think, oh, becoming a lawyer, a doctor, a banker, these are going to work out for you financially. A lot of cases they don't, because the high living cost in this type of rigged economy. That's why you need to save and invest when you're younger as much as possible. And as difficult as it might be, really think carefully through your potential life decisions that could be incredibly costly. If you get married and have a divorce, particularly as a man, you could lose a lot of money. If you have kids, then you get divorced, you might have to pay for child support. Even if you're just trying to give them a good education, you might have to pay for private schooling, tutoring, things like that. It's becoming increasingly unrealistic to pursue some basic things, basic life goals. So you need to think them through carefully. And the other thing to consider here is about job hopping. He realized that, job hopping doesn't necessarily work. There's like a lack of job stability, particularly when you're an older age. You need more security in terms of your income. And it's quite difficult. He's in a very difficult scenario financially. So you don't end up like this. Think about it through carefully. And that's my kind of warning to you through this video. Like I say, can you afford the kids, wife and house and property that you want to buy? And lots of people end up like this guy. They end up in this debt trap. They end up being stuck in middle management with a massive mortgage, and they're kind of stuck for the rest of their life. They're like married with a big mortgage in middle management. So there's triple M's there, right? Middle management, marriage, mortgage, and they're stuck there for life. Can't really progress too much because there's not much opportunity above them, and they're stuck. So you need to think carefully. Do you want to end up like this? That's why you need to make smart career decisions, smart investment decisions. And this is something I tried to help my clients with through career advice. So if you're interested in that, there is a link in the description so you don't end up in this type of scenario. So it's quite difficult. I want you to focus on your exit plan. If you are working a corporate career right now, what is your long-term game plan to live life on your own terms instead of that corporation or this system's terms? So thanks for listening. There are 2 recommended videos on your screen right now. Let me know your experience by leaving a comment below, and I'll see you next time.